first time you shoot a show will never be on tour for bands like Metallica or Slipknot. It won't be with the latest and greatest gear money can buy, and the pictures you take probably won't be that good. This video will be about where to start as a concert photographer with some practical, realistic advice for beginners, and not how to navigate a photo pit or how to get on tour with some of the biggest bands on the planet. Hi, I'm Zach, and I've been shooting shows from the crowd for the past 2 years now, and I started this channel as a way to document my concert photography journey and to share what I learn along the way. So, what is concert photography? Even at high level, it's about problem solving in some of the most chaotic environments you can find yourself in, especially at the kind of shows I find myself at. You have no control over the lighting, the crowd, or even sometimes you can't even control where you stand at a show. For me, it comes down to 3 things: anticipation, adaptability, and acceptance. Anticipation is about knowing what might happen at a show and being ready for it. For example, if you're shooting an artist that uses a lot of pyro, knowing when that pyro is going to go off in that set list will help you be in the right place with the right settings. A personal example of mine, during Bleed From Within at Download set this last year, I knew from watching them in the past that during the last song, Scott, their vocalist, will stand on the barrier at the edge of the crowd and sort of do the last chorus and verse with the fans. So as soon as I knew they were playing their last song, my only focus for the rest of their set was to get a shot of Scott and the crowd. And because I knew it was coming, because I knew what I was looking out for, I got the shot, and it's probably my favorite shot of that entire weekend. And it's all because I anticipated that moment. Adaptability is about reacting when things don't go to plan, which they almost definitely won't. Lights will flip from red to blue, band members won't be stood exactly where you want them to be, someone will hold an inflatable giraffe up in front of you for an entire set. Your job is to adapt. Sometimes it's something as simple as changing your ISO when some unexpected pyro goes off, or shifting positions when the angle just isn't happening for you. And acceptance is about understanding that some of the pictures you're going to take are going to be absolute stinkers. And that's absolutely fine. When you're shooting from the crowd, you're shooting for yourself. You don't have a band's media team or a publication dependent on the photos that you take. The worst case scenario is that you have 1 or 2 less slides on your Instagram carousel. At Straight From The Past Manchester show at the end of last year, I planned to be right at the front of the pit so that I could move across the pit and get as many shots of the entire band as I possibly could. Until 2 songs in, Drew, the vocalist, asked for 400 crowd surfers to go over the barrier. So instead of shooting the band for most of the night, I spent most of my time lifting people up over my head to crowd surf over the barrier. And that's absolutely fine. Obviously didn't take as many pictures as I wanted, but I still got quite a few usable ones. And it actually ended up being one of the most fun gigs I've been to in a long time. And this is why it's such an advantage starting out just shooting from the crowd. There's no pressure. If you have a stinker of a show, it's not the end of the world. You've still just seen one of your favorite bands live. Learn from it, go again next time, and get better. So the first show I ever actually shot was with my iPhone 15 Pro Max. So you can definitely shoot shows with an iPhone, but if you really want to take concert photography seriously, I would strongly recommend investing in a point and shoot camera. I've used 2 in the last 2 years, the RX100 Mark I and the Sony ZV-1, which is actually the one I use right now. I have managed to take my mirrorless camera in, the one I'm shooting on now, the Sony ZV-E10, but most venues don't allow you to take cameras with detachable lenses in, so I only really use this for festivals now. If you're confident enough, you can talk your way into getting it in. I definitely have in the past, but to avoid the stress of this before shows, I advise just getting yourself a point and shoot camera. Some things to look out for when picking a point and shoot are a low aperture and a decent zoom. A low aperture means you're able to get more light onto the sensor of the camera, which is obviously ideal for concerts. Try to avoid anything above f4 or f5, as this will mean you either have to lower your shutter speed, which introduces motion blur, or crank up your ISO, which is better, but you don't want to go too high where you introduce way too much noise. Zoom wise, you'll find that most affordable point and shoot cameras sit at around 24 to 70 millimeters. That's what my ZV-1 is. Just be aware that most point and shoot cameras have a variable aperture. So for example, my RX100 Mark I was an f4.9 when zoomed all the way into 100mm. And just going back to ISO for a second, while you probably don't want to crank it all the way up to 128,000, you can actually turn it up a lot more than you think. With how good Lightroom noise reduction is now, you could comfortably sit at around 6400. I don't have time now, but if you want to see a video where I deep dive into settings a bit more, be sure to subscribe or click here if I've already released it. One thing I've been trying to work on while at gigs is try not to take pictures just stood in one spot. Obviously, when you go to a gig to watch a show, you can absolutely stand in one spot for the entire night and just take in what's going on stage. And there's nothing stopping you from doing that as a photographer. I did it for my first year. But as I've wanted to take photography a bit more seriously, I've found that my pictures are very one-dimensional when just taking them from the same angle. One thing I've actually started doing is using the mosh pit to my advantage. When a pit opens up, it creates a massive space in the middle of the crowd that you can move around in and get different angles of what's going on stage, as long as you avoid some rogue elbows and spin kicks. From the back of the pit, you can get a pretty clear shot of the stage without phones, hands, inflatable giraffes being in the way. If you get to the front side of the pit, you can get close to the stage for more detailed shots of what's going on. Obviously, you can then move side to side and get a picture of the guitarist on one side and the bassist on the other, for example. And then something that I've actually started doing while around mosh pits is taking pictures of what's going on inside the pit. They can create some really chaotic and energetic images. If you don't feel safe in pits, then you absolutely don't need to use them. Even though I love myself a little mosh, at Polaris's set at Download last year, I had to get myself crowd surfed out because I was just so worried I was going to break my camera. You can move around the crowd without using the pit. Just be aware of the people around you. You're not there as the photographer, so don't act like it. Don't spend the entire night with your camera in the air blocking people's views. Don't push from the back of the crowd all the way up to the barrier. Just be respectful to the others that are there to just enjoy the show. At the end of the day, if you never move, your Instagram just ends up looking like one long burst shot. Editing isn't about saving bad photos. It's about emphasizing a mood, directing attention, and making the image feel how you felt being at the show. Your editing taste will change over time. You might love your edits now, but then in 6 months' time, you'll look back and wonder why you even posted that. And that's normal. Don't stress about finding a style straight away. Just focus on getting these fundamentals right. You can have shot the perfect moment, but if the exposure's off, it doesn't matter. With how fast lighting can change its shows, your exposure will be off sometimes, even with good settings. Fixing exposure and then balancing highlights and shadows can bring back shots you thought were unusable. As a beginner, it is helpful and useful to crank sliders either way just to see what they do to your image, but pull it back when you're finishing an edit. A couple of settings to be careful with are noise reduction. A slightly noisy photo is better than a plastic looking one. If your ISO is around 4000 to 6400, I usually keep my noise reduction to around 20 to 35. And then treat texture and clarity as like a seasoning rather than a main ingredient. Pushing them too far makes skin look rough and unnatural, and it can also exaggerate any noise still left in your image. I try to keep both of these to around +5 to maybe +10 to 15 at most. And then finally, not every photo needs a completely different look. A simple repeatable edit helps keep your work feel cohesive, and constantly changing styles can actually hide any progress you make. Once you've got the basics locked in, that's when you can start experimenting. Add in motion blur, texture overlays, or heavier color grading in Photoshop, but just get the foundations right first. And if you want a full breakdown of my editing workflow, let me know in the comments. I'm more than happy to make a dedicated video to it. So to quickly recap, anticipate the conditions you're shooting in, adapt to any changes that happen during the show, and accept that you won't be good to begin with. You don't need expensive gear to start with, but focus on low light capability if you are looking to upgrade. Move around if it's safe to do so to get a variety of different angles of what's going on stage, and nail the basics before getting fancy with your editing. But if you take anything away from this video, hopefully it's this: just start shooting shows. Shooting from the crowd isn't a disadvantage. It's where you build your skills that actually matter to one day be able to shoot on the other side of the barrier, whether it be from a photo pit or side stage for one of your favourite bands. So take your camera to the next show. Even if it feels weird, just do it. That's how progress starts. Again, if there's anything you want me to cover more, let me know in the comments below, and subscribe to see them when they drop. And if this video did push you to take pictures at a show for the first time, hit me up on Instagram and show me your shots. I'd love to see them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.